Okay, and we're back for another episode here. I'm here with Elishia, who is a vet, and very happy to have her here to ask some very important questions. Firstly, Elishia, how's everything going?
Yeah, I'm going really well. Thanks so much for having me here today.
No, my pleasure, and really we're great to have you because we got a lot of good questions. But before we jump into some of these top questions asked by students when it comes to a vet, I've got a question of my own, and I want to take you back to high school. I want to understand, what kind of student were you during high school, and was being a vet always the goal?
No, definitely being a vet was something I never really even thought about or crossed my mind at all until I was about in year 10 when we had to do work experience somewhere. I really was interested in kind of science and biology, and so I was thinking maybe I wanted to work in like human medicine or like a hospital or somewhere similar. So I applied to lots of different hospitals to do work experience, but every single one of them was rejected. My mum said, why don't you give a vet hospital a try? That's pretty much the same thing. I was thinking, no way, like I don't want to do that. I spent 1 week there. So I ended up going there, spent a week there, and I fell in love immediately. And I knew that was exactly what I wanted to do. Yeah, so that's how it worked out for me. But in terms of what kind of student I was a pretty good studier, and I did quite like learning and teaching myself content, and I did kind of have a passion for those basic kind of science subjects.
Fantastic, Elishia. Great to know. And sometimes you're right. Well, no, that's the reality. In most cases, no one knows if that's what you want to be. And here you are today that now can share advice on this specific career. So that's great. Jumping into our questions that we have for you. The first question asked by students when it comes to the career path of a vet is, what does a typical day look like for yourself?
This is a question I really love because a typical day varies very, very much day to day. So my job is a small animal veterinarian, so I'm working in a GP practice, so just like your general kind of vet clinic you take your dog or cat to. Basically, I arrive in the morning, we have a little team huddle, kind of set out the plan for the day, have a look at the schedule. I'll usually be doing some consulting in the morning. The consults can vary from things like puppy, kitten vaccinations to really unwell, sick patients, or anything from like eye examinations or even arthritis examinations. So it's quite a different handful of cases you can see. Then I'll usually jump in and do some surgery, probably around lunchtime into the afternoon. We'll have some lunch and then, get back into consults, looking in the hospital and taking care of patients, doing their medications and just seeing what other jobs need to be done.
Fantastic. And what does that look like? It starts at 9 and do you finish at 5? Is that kind of a normal day that in terms of the hours?
Yeah, so in my clinic, I start at 8 a.m. and I work till 6 p.m. every single day. So Monday to Friday, 4 days a week, so I have Tuesdays off. So that's a 38-hour week, which is pretty standard as a small animal vet.
Okay, and do you find yourself ever taking work from home, working overtime, working on weekends, just trying to understand how busy can it get? Or is that a fairly consistent schedule that you have between Monday and Friday with the Tuesday being off?
No, it's very consistent. I don't take any work home, and my boss is very, very adamant that I'm not allowed to work from home, so I don't have any access to any resources or anything like that, like our clinic profile or anything to see what consults are coming up, so that I'm not kind of doing work at home, because she's very into kind of work-life balance. So you're at work, you're doing work, and then when you leave, that's kind of your time.
Excellent. Great to hear, Elishia. Next question that we have for you asked by students is, what are some of the most challenging aspects of being a vet?
Well, whenever you tell someone you're a vet, they always say the hardest part would have to be putting animals down, which definitely does have its place. That is very kind of emotionally fatiguing to do. I don't think it's probably the most challenging. I think the most challenging is probably dealing with clients. Clients can be quite abusive sometimes, and in the vet profession, there is quite a concern regarding mental health issues. So there is quite a high suicide rate for vets, and I think it can really take a toll on your mental health. So that's probably one of the most challenging issues of being a vet. And I think what's led to that is kind of abusive clients who don't really have much financial backing to do the care that they want for their pet. So that can be a bit of an issue sometimes, and just kind of dealing with those challenging situations of trying to kind of do what's right for the pet, but also calm kind of the client down, and also talking financially can be quite challenging and tricky to navigate through those situations. It can also be quite, emotionally exhausting, quite physically exhausting as well. You do work kind of the long hours and your brain is switched on that whole time. So there's a few different challenging aspects there.
Absolutely. And understandably, with that being, as you mentioned, abusive clients, that is obviously something that I'm sure there's no one way of dealing with that situation. Can you give us an example of what that scenario has been for yourself and how you potentially mitigated a very tense situation?
Yeah, sure. So like I said, most of the issues are a client comes in, they want to do what's best for their pet, but when we tell them the price that's going to cost, they get quite upset. And I think usually it's financial situation. So the way the economy is at the moment, everyone is kind of struggling just to get by financially. So adding on a expensive pet bill that they weren't expecting last minute, emergencies can pop up and they're not expecting to spend hundreds of dollars on their pet, but they want to do what's best for them. So it can be a little bit tricky and they can get a little bit kind of defensive about it. And like a really common saying we get is, oh, like you're a vet, so you should care and you should just do this for free. Like you make so much money, why don't you do this? If you really cared about my pet, you would do this for free is pretty much the most common comment we get. So I guess how we deal with it is we just have to kind of have a chat with them and just say, I'm really sorry, but this is just the way it is. We do have different financial options, like we can do certain payment plans and things like that to help you. It's really important just to list out all the different options for the client so they have every single consideration to make and can kind of make the best decision for their pet.
Absolutely. Well, that's interesting to hear. And you touched upon another very interesting point in terms of the challenges, the mental exhaustion about that. How do you find yourself dealing with that outside of work?
I feel like I'm actually pretty good at switching off when I get home. I love after work just doing something active like taking the dogs for a walk or going to the gym, kind of getting my mind in a completely different mindset. I find that really helps me switch off. And I think also just another rule I kind of use is this 5x5 rule. So if you think about 5 years from now, are you still going to be worrying? Are you still going to be thinking about that issue? Most of the time the answer is no. So if that's not really going to matter in 5 years' time, then don't spend another 5 seconds worrying about it.
That's great advice for anyone listening out there. The 5x5 rule is something I'm learning right now. Yeah, are you going to think about that in the future? So great to hear, Elishia, on that front. Next question that we have asked by students is, are there any specific courses you recommend for aspiring vets? Is there anything specifically for training or for their education that they should do? Or should they go through the standard practice of whether it be university or whatnot?
Yeah, so I think my journey started in high school. So I've always kind of loved science and was really kind of into biology and science subjects. So I definitely think that really helps because you need to be passionate about biology and science and learning those types of situations and content to kind of push you forward, because after I studied that in year 11 and year 12, so I did biology, I did some maths, and that is really quite useful. We use that a lot day to day. So after high school, I went into uni. At uni, a lot of the content was a little bit similar to what we had learnt in year 11 and 12 in terms of kind of basic biology, animals and their organs and how different cells and things like that work in the body and just how it operates. That was very useful to do in high school. So biology, maths even as well. You do a lot of calculations as a vet, working out different drugs and doses and things like that. And that's really important to get that correct. So you don't need to be amazing at maths. I only did applications, which was kind of the lower level maths. I still use a calculator now. So I'm not a maths expert in any way at all, but it's definitely good to have that background. But other than kind of, that basic kind of science and maths in high school, going into uni is pretty similar content-wise.
Fair enough. Yeah, no, that's good to know. And knowing that it starts from a very early point in time in terms of having that passion, at least for yourself, it was in high school to understand that this is what you want to do and then the natural progression there. But you're saying there's no other additional kind of training or courses that help get you further prospects in this role or getting help in terms of getting new jobs in that regards? Or
Well, once you do the university degree and you're in that degree, it is quite competitive to get into. Once you're in it and once you complete the degree, like you'll very easily find a job straight out of uni. There's a really high demand for vets now. There's lots of different jobs, opportunities and offers that you can get. So there's not really anything additional you need to do besides the university degree.
Okay. Good to know, right? Sometimes in different professions, there may be, university could be the base in terms of what you need to do as a minimum requirement, but then doing additional courses as well. But you're saying for vet, no, you do that, it's very competitive. You're more likely going to get a job moving forward from there.
Yeah, absolutely. Like once you're in the degree and you finish the degree, that's kind of the minimum requirement to practice as a vet.
Next question that we have for you asked by students, Elishia, I'm going to change this up a little bit, is what is the study load like during university when studying for vet? How does that look like? Is that a very demanding schedule from yourself, or is it quite doable in the however many years that you study it?
Sure. So most veterinary degrees in Australia are 5 or 6 years. I studied at Murdoch, which was a 5-year degree. The first 1 to 2 years are pretty standard, pretty relaxed, like just your general kind of lectures, a lot of the same content you learn in kind of basic high school biology, just going over animal kind of physiology and learning anatomy and things like that. There is a lot to learn, especially as you kind of get into 3rd and 4th year. They are very, very content heavy learning years. So pretty much you're sitting in lectures all day. You go home, you have to kind of study the lectures. So it's a lot of learning and a lot of hard work that you do have to put in. But if you're really passionate about it and you really want to learn it and you have an interest in learning, then you can definitely do it. The 5th year of the degree is all practical. So that was a really nice change. And you're just working like a clinic. So my university had a vet hospital attached to it. So that was quite good to just do some prac there, as well as in outside different clinics. So you do pracs on farms, you do pracs in like emergency, lots of different specialists, and just to kind of dip your toe in all the different fields, because there's a lot more to being a vet than just a small animal GP.
Great to know. And were you selective about the specific institution where you should be studying to become a vet, or was that something that you have a lot of different options to choose from?
So there are lots of different options. There's 5 universities in Australia that offer vet, but it's very, very competitive to get into. Even with a really high ATAR score, sometimes you might not get in. So when I was applying, I almost applied everywhere because I would just be happy for anywhere to take me.
And it worked out well?
Yeah, it did in the end, thank goodness.
Fantastic. Moving on to our next question that we have for you, and this is a very popular question that we get among a lot of different careers, is how much do you get paid?
Yeah, so one thing about being a vet is you don't get paid that well, especially in comparison to doctors, which you're doing very, very similar degrees for, similar work for. Comparatively, you definitely don't get paid as well. So it's something you have to be genuinely passionate about. You don't go into vet for the money. As a new grad, you'll be expecting a salary between around 60 to 70,000 a year. That's as a new grad where you're still needing a lot of help from like a mentor, a lot of support, you're learning basic surgery and you can't really do much things kind of on your own at first. So it will take you a little bit of time, so your pay is a bit lower. As you progress though, you definitely kind of climb that salary scale, so you can expect to have quite a comfortable salary once you have a few years of experience, so over 100K.
Yeah, and just interesting to know, 60 to 70 is the starting point. How does that progress over the years? Is it like each year it's an increase of 5,000, 10,000? How long do you get before you're looking at 100? And also maybe understand from maybe your experience, how far can it go?
Yeah, so I guess in terms of how long, I probably say about 2 or 3 years and you should be looking at a salary of over 100,000. It will vary a lot between different clinics. So we have private clinics, which are privately owned. They generally pay a lot better than kind of a corporate clinic, which is like a franchise clinic. So there's lots of different ones around. So something like Vet West or Green Cross Vets, they're corporate, so they don't really pay as well, but they do a lot of kind of additional like continued education, lots of learning and additional resources and opportunities that they kind of give you benefit for. So in terms of like how far your salary can go, it can go up a lot. So if you want, you can choose to specialize. So specialists can earn well over $200,000. However, that does take a few additional years of extra training.
Well, it's good to know, right? Once again, for students who understand that part of the job and what they're investing in time, these are some of the salary benefits that can lead to one day. So that's great. And for yourself, I'm sure with your lifestyle, the salary and everything does work well? Or
Yeah, I'm pretty comfortable with my salary, especially my first year out. I think it suits me quite well.
Fantastic. Last question that we have for you, asked my students is, what aspects of your job bring you the most satisfaction?
Yeah, I genuinely do love going to work every day. I love doing what I do. Being a vet is a really, really amazing job. So some of the highlights is probably helping clients and helping pets. Like, it gives you a really, really great, amazing feeling knowing you're making a difference to the lives of pets and animals, but also the people who own them as well. Knowing you make a difference for animal welfare as well, doing your best to try and improve animal welfare and kind of make the world a bit of a better place for animals. So I feel like that is definitely a highlight. I also love kind of how every day is different. You always get a different cases going on. Each day is a variety of different cases and challenges, and your brain is always working and
Fantastic, Elishia. Thank you so much. Well, that wraps up all our questions that we have for you today. For our listeners who have more questions for Elishia that weren't covered in today's episode and would like to connect with her, simply visit our website, careerview.com.au. This is where you'll find Elishia's profile, and you can send her more questions when she's free. Hopefully she can answer when she has some spare time. And as always, with each episode, please remember to submit the questions that you want to know, especially to young professionals who've been there, done that, and can share their story. Elishia, thanks again for being here. Very insightful, really good advice for aspiring vets out there. I do have one last question before I let you go, and that is, what would you say is your advice for someone who is not so sure about pursuing this career and is considering and is right on the fence? What should they do?
Definitely go have a workplace experience at a clinic. So I feel like it's one of those jobs where you have to actually physically experience it in order to know if that job is for you or not. So call up a vet clinic, go tell them you're interested and wanting to trial out some work there, just even for a week, and that will really give you an inside kind of knowledge of what a day in the life of a vet actually looks like. And just, talking to the different vets and even vet nurses in the hospital, asking them what it's like, and just having that actual physical, practical experience will be really beneficial in making your decision.
Fantastic. Thank you so much.
No worries. Thanks for having me.